Today, I had a pleasant chat with my first foreign customers, those for whom, as a simple interior designer, I became a guide for those who want to face a restructuring. A guide aimed particularly at foreigners. Now, why do I telling you that? Because I wanted to understand even more what drives a person to buy a house in Italy not to move, but above all, what fears there may be behind this choice. Let's see them in this video. Hi, welcome to this channel. I am Virginie, interior designer, and I deal with houses that represent 100% who must leave them from consultancy to the entire renovation process. I also help foreigners who want to buy and renovate in Italy to support them all the process long. Difficult otherwise to follow from a distance. So, what drives a person to buy a house in Italy and what fears are behind this choice? Well, I'm certainly not here to dwell on the reasons. Italy is a wonderful country, even if often mistreated and unfortunately not always correctly valued. I am French and I love my country, but I can admit that Italy is among the most beautiful countries in the world, from all points of view. Landscape and culture, not to mention good food and good wine. It's called Bel Paese for a reason, isn't it? So I wouldn't say that it's not surprising that many foreigners love Italy and want to have a house here to spend their holidays. But it's not an easy choice to make. What fears are hidden? Having the opportunity to take such a step certainly doesn't mean doing it lightly or without fears. And indeed, as I imagined, there are several worries. Let's see if you find yourself there too. The first, obviously, is the problem of the language. Unless you have been in Italy regularly for many years or you have been studying Italian for a while, it's easy that you aren't completely independent with this language. And I can understand that it's not really a piece of cake to have to face the purchase and then the renovation of a house if dialogue with your partners becomes complicated. Although English is the official language recognized all over the world, it's equally true that you probably know it, but that here in Italy you will face, sadly, too many people who have scholastic English and who will use Google Translator. For you it's not good, because the risk of big misunderstandings are really huge. Now, I've tried Google Translator and I can guarantee you that quite often it translates the opposite of what you would like to say. So it's really very important to make sure that those who help you have, I don't say an excellent, I don't have it, but at least a very good knowledge of English. Since everything will be managed remotely, being sure to have a clear communication is absolutely essential. Finding an interpreter may not be super complicated, but you also need to be sure that he knows what we are talking about, knows how to move in this world, to be autonomous, to manage here what you can do from afar. If for anything he needs to ask you for clarification, it becomes as complicated as talking to those who don't know the language almost. Am I right? Another problem is the fact that, of course, every country has its own laws and its own bureaucracies. Do you know how it works here in Italy? Did you get information before starting this adventure? Do you want to go blind or find out how it works and what costs it involves only during the renovation? When you choose the technician, surveyor or architect and the constructor, wouldn't it be nice for someone to explain to you in detail all the steps and related costs you will encounter? And I'm not just talking about the costs of buying and renovating, but also the notary, the paperwork to be presented on the municipality, and so on. I'm not here to list everything, this is not the point, but you can imagine that there are many duties to think about. And trust is fine, but wouldn't it be nice to have at least an overall idea of what will be done? Believe me if I tell you that very few people sit at table with you and tell you everything right from the beginning. Why? Well, often because they take everything for granted, but some also for fear of you, that you may think that it's take too long or it's too expensive and look for someone else. But someone must tell you these things sooner or later. But if you know everything before, you can have a very accurate idea of the investment that you are planning to make, both economically and in terms of times, and you can prepare yourself. If you find out these things during the renovation, it could be a problem, don't you think? And then there are the two biggest fears. One is about being somehow teased with the prices, and the other is that the works never reach the end. As for the prices, you can't make the correlation with the prices applied in your country. You can have a generic idea, but there are too many factors that affect the prices that can be different from country to country. Here, the price they offer you is correct, too high, too low. Yes, it could actually be too low, but then you will obviously pay with low quality. As for the job that don't came to an end, I discovered that so many horrible stories about constructors who don't finish their work or they spend 5 years to finish it. I quote the client verbatim. These fears are always there, but unfortunately, when it's about Italians, these fears increase. If you are Dutch, you already know. If you are not, I tell you this. In Holland, they have written a book on how to avoid being fooled when you buy and renovate in Italy. Seriously, some clients of the architect I work with told us. Now, I'm sure that you know it's a cliche, but unfortunately, I'm aware that this is the fame that Italians have abroad. Unfortunately, it's not always a guarantee even to rely on a foreigner who now lives in Italy. Certainly, as far as the language is concerned, you will be alright, but for everything else, I tell you this because my clients had relied on a foreigner who lives here. He promised that he would always be available for them. But then, once they bought the house and signed the contract with the constructor company, he literally disappeared, which is the reason they asked me for help. Do you find yourself in these fears? I just hope I didn't scare you more and more. It's clear that serious people exist. It's just not always easy to find them. And there are too many people who have had many difficulties. That's why I'm here. I don't want others to suffer what these customers have suffered, who are convinced that without me they probably wouldn't arrive at the end of the renovation yet. If I handed them the keys last year, we are still in touch. And although my job is over, if they need it, I have no problem helping again. I would say that a sort of friendship was born, and for me it's the most beautiful thing. Because then you get messages like this one month later. If you like the topic, please let me know with a like or tell me in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification bell to not miss the upcoming videos. See you soon. Bye!